Hi everybody and welcome to Beyond Politics. This morning we'll be discussing quite a number of things, mainly the GNU in relation to the NHI. Wow, so many acronyms so early in the morning. But
Yeah,
it's an interesting one because I think one thing that we have to realize is that as government fails, it seems to grasp at straws by creating more and more laws as a solution to its own effectual failure.
and they don't actually know how to solve problems except to take more money from us, the taxpayers.
More
Because
tax.
that's the bottom line here. NHI is going to cost more tax, so it's going to be a wealth transfer, and I call it government theft because, or legalized theft. And we have many cases like that in a country such as South Africa, where money is stolen from people to give to places where they don't get that benefit from that tax. Because in most countries, if you pay tax, that tax is supposed to benefit you in some way. It shouldn't be taken from you to be used somewhere where you don't get the benefit. That I call theft. But in South Africa, theft is common, and our government is probably the largest thief.
I tend to disagree somewhat. Saul Alinsky, who wrote 21 Rules for Radicals, I think, he said that being compassionate is in your own self-interest. So if you have to extend that to the concept of tax, I think knowing that some of your tax is being used to uplift people who need it is fine, even if it is far away. But knowing that it's actually been put to use instead of it being gobbled up by government, that is awesome.
And most people actually agree with that. Here's the thing. When you take a specific tax and you say you're not going to get any benefit for that, that's a very different thing. If you have a broad-based tax base where you use it in ways to better a country, it's a very different thing. Where now you're creating a bill around a specific thing. And there's obviously a fight here. And the one article that we are referencing here says NHI breakthrough ANC agrees with DA not to collapse medical aids. And we talked earlier about the current government hospitals.
So why can't they just work? Why can't they just be state-of-the-art equipment? And why can't the government pay doctors and nurses good salaries and have a functioning state healthcare system?
Well, it was functioning at some stage. It's not functioning now, and one needs to look at why NHI is now being created, where private institutions will be forced to give medical services to people because of government failures. And why would things change?
Why is an easy answer. You have to look at how to access NHI. You have to register as a user, you and your family, with the NHI. So it means that more people are just going to be monitored by the government. Every time someone is sick, it will be registered somewhere on some big database, and it just goes back to the whole monitoring, tracking, tracing, control strategy of the global government system that we are by design part of.
And NHI is part of that idea plan, and there's many places in the world where similar things are already at play. But there's quite a few interesting nuances here. They speak of the government of national unity reaching agreement. That's not the case. It's the ANC and the DA. I don't hear any of the other parties being consulted here at all in the GNU. So it's basically the ANC and the Democratic Alliance. And I wonder how the Democratic Alliance voters feel about this, because the funding part is still not resolved. But they have now settled on something where they say that the collapse of the medical aids won't take place anymore.
This is, I suppose, a small little peek into what a two-party state would look like, where it's just the ANC and the DA. I'm sure many people would salivate at the thought of a two-party state, but I actually believe that we need more choices. More choices is always equal to more freedom.
But the people have been brainwashed to believe that the less choices you have, the easier it is.
Indeed.
Yeah, here's the beauty. This brainwashing proves that the citizens are lazy. Okay, and we can say it emphatically. Citizens are lazy to do their homework and be proper citizens in a so-called democracy. And if the citizens are not active, involved in that democracy, it cannot be a democracy. And this is why we have communist bills being passed left, right, and center.
So, actually, a lovely lady commented on a video yesterday, and she said she grew up being told never to speak about politics. And she says everyone around her was told the same thing. And I wonder how much that actually contributes to people choosing to just ignore political issues and just carry on with their lives. But how is that actually serving us? It's not. So, we need to change. So, to continue on this specific article, the Government of National Unity has quietly reached an agreement in two key aspects relating to the NHI. So, that's interesting.
But this is not the GNU.
It's not the GNU.
Because in the very next paragraph...
the Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Minister revealed that the two main parties in the GNU, ANC and DA, have struck an informational agreement. But what about all the other parties?
Informal agreement, yeah.
Informal. What about all the other parties? Unless the DA has agreed to be the spokesperson of the others that disagree with the NHI, but I don't think
that's not the case, no.
After the ANC concession to drop sections of the law that could collapse medical aid.
Now, this is where I get worried, because Hitler did many of the same things just before the Second World War started. He acceded to all sorts of agreements, signed many agreements, said, yes, I will do this, yes, I will do that. Meantime, he had other plans, okay? And the same thing might be happening here. Why did they so very quickly say, oh yeah, we'll just take this out of the NHI, and then everything's hunky-dory, and then the next minister says he's happy, and Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, says that he's happy, just like this, out of the sky, almost like it's planned. And the strange thing is that people will fall for tactics that's as old as humans are, okay? Foolery, skullduggery, doing things behind the scenes. And this is what is playing out here, as has been common in the past in the South African government under various administrations and systems. And the NHI still has one big elephant in the room. Even if you can keep your private medical aid, and that is, how are you going to fund this? Can these private hospitals cope with the amount of people that will be coming there? Can you imagine if the government hospitals aren't fully functional? They have all the beds, they have all the rooms. I mean, they have the space to deal with large groups of people. So this is a plaster that's been put on the fact that government cannot run hospitals. Just like they cannot run Eskom, just like they cannot run Transnet, just like they cannot run SAA. I can carry on and on. Governments with socialist and communist ideologies can run nothing and will always come to naught.
Well, that's what history has proven.
Yeah.
However, as long as there's people in poverty, as long as unemployment is at high rates, and as long as a lot of people not necessarily are in poverty but don't have enough money to sustain their needs in a month or whatever, and as long as private sector and civil society doesn't rise to the occasion to meet those needs, there will always be that gap where government will have to fill. Government will always have to provide some kind of social services because of the inattention, inactivity, and disinterest of citizens to actually help meet those needs. So we actually create the structure of government ourselves by our behaviors, by our selfishness, by our refusal to get involved. And so we will always, I suppose, until poverty has been addressed, have a kind of a socialist setup. And that is quite sad that we are in that situation. So now the situation becomes what's happening to our tax money. Because people across the board are paying tax left, right, and center. There's going to be more tax. The government says that the NHI is going to cost us $1,500, but then an industry expert in the medical aid field did his own calculations. And we did an article on this. He said it'll actually more realistically cost 3,500 rand per person, per South African citizen per month. So that's a lot more.
The taxpayers.
But we're paying tax for so many different things. And where is that tax going? It's going to the government. What is the government doing with it? It's only 2%, like we've mentioned so many times.
60% is salaries.
What is it? 20 cents. 20 cents goes towards service.
Yes, if you're lucky.
Can't believe it.
Because, I mean, in every tax rand, 60% salaries, 20% interest on debt repayments, not servicing the debt itself, and then 20 cents in every tax rand is left for service delivery. And most of that gets plundered. So at the end of the day, it is a sinking ship. You cannot sustain this. No. You need economic growth in this financial system that we are in. And to do that, You cannot implement things like the NHI. The moment you do that, people leave. And that's what's been happening. I mean, we could have done many articles on people fleeing the country in their droves because of these bills being implemented. And the bottom line is, not the ruling parties don't actually care, because they don't care if the country is destroyed, because I believe there are international plans for South Africa.
Well,
Smart cities,
it's not
monitoring,
about
tracking and tracing that you were mentioning,
yeah.
the smart city system where humans will be monitored, tracked and traced, and the NHI is just one road or one step closer to that. And a global general income. You spoke earlier about the poor not being able to look after themselves. So this global general income is being mooted by many people. Even Elon Musk spoke of in future we would have to do this because of AI
That's
and
nonsense.
robots,
There's
etc.
other ways to overcome
Exactly,
poverty.
but this is what's being said to the people of the world.
I think, take all ill intent away, any global agenda away. When you look at just the way government operates, it operates based on statistics. It'll look, okay, 20% of people in this area need housing. 30% of people in that area need water, sanitation services, whatever. So they're looking at numbers and they're acting according to numbers. They need to control how they deliver their services, and they need to control all the information about those services in order to say that they have progressed or they have offered a solution. And instead of just leaving society to its own devices, it wants to control every aspect so it can report and say, we've done this and we've done that. And it's that very nature of the structure of the organization and concept of government that makes it authoritative and almost a dictatorship by its very nature. And that's why we need a kind of system change that moves away from the oligarchy we have in this country, where we have all parties pretty much funded by the same few people, implementing things that are only in the interest of business, not in the interest of people. But now the government, the ANC government, is obviously trying to implement its plan of liberation through communist policies that have already failed in other countries. And that's the situation we have here in South Africa. And if you refuse to participate in politics in whatever shape or form, you're part of the problem.
And here you can see the Democratic Alliance, that is part of that government, actually working with the ANC and saying that we don't have a choice. You do have a choice. Everyone has a choice. And at the end of the day, a country such as South Africa, that has immense mineral wealth, that has immense natural resources, and actually has enough water running into the sea, we can do whatever we want if we put our minds to it. And an open market is the best way to achieve that. Not communist ideologies, not handouts and grants. One needs to transition from that, and it might not happen immediately. But the mindset needs to change, where you empower people to build wealth on property that they own.
Indeed, and we'll be speaking about land expropriation soon. I personally believe property ownership is the first step to wealth building. It's a very integral part of combating poverty in this country. And we'll be speaking about how the land expropriation bill actually undermines that. But until then, you can go visit our website, beyondpolitics.co.za, and have a look at our free course that we offer on becoming a super citizen. It's the Citizens Empowerment Training. And then we also have a variety of workshops. And this Sunday, we are also doing a workshop about a review on the past 5 years, including, we'll talk about 2025 at the end. And that's just to talk about the fast, rapid pace. Our lives have changed without us even realizing it, and how it affects us, and specifically how it affects our freedom.